Hello, my Facebook family. How are you? Thank you for joining me on my Crystal Loves Texas podcast. And I got a different co-host this week, but you may recognize her. Do you recognize her? Introduce yourself, my co-host.
It's only been 61 years, so hopefully.
Introduce yourself.
Kim Dillard.
That's
Crystal
my
sister.
sister, Kim. Kim, thank you for being here. And it's a special reason that I brought Kim here today because of our special guest.
Yes.
And we've known our special guest for probably longer than we all care to say. We have got
over a decade.
2011.
Yeah.
2010.
2010.
Wow.
Yes, but we have
Wow.
got Pastor Vauhaligan, Walwyn, more affectionately known as Pastor Vaughn One from Space City Church. Thank
Space
you,
City.
Pastor Vaughn.
Hello. Excited to be here.
Thank
My
you.
pleasure.
Thank you for coming to be here. Listen, I've had several pastors on, and I really like to invite the pastors on who have a strong touch point with Generation Z and millennials and younger people, because those are the ones that are faced with so many things, and they're up against so many obstacles, and you guys are the ones who really have been charged with the task of bringing those in to the fold. That's not an easy job, Pastor Vaughn.
No, it's not. No, it's not. I think for me, it comes easy because having 4 kids that fall in Gen Z. So naturally, we've had to learn how to adjust and just raise kids in this environment. You know what I mean?
Yes.
But there's a lot of pastors. There's some other pastors as well. I know we did something recently. There's prayforgenz.com where Pastor Jim Kyle's out there at Anchor Bend. They pray for Gen Z every day at 12 p.m. Something like that. And we did a big event at Constellation Field a couple of months back where we celebrated Gen Z. So we know that God's doing something to reach them. We even had a guy named Gideon. He's got over 20 million followers on social media who recently gave his life to Jesus. And they say when it comes to the top 10 people who are most influential in reaching Gen Z, he was ranked number 5. And so he was at our church recently. So I just see God doing some things to bring us to a place of influence to reach them.
I saw that flyer.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, I saw that flyer and I said, his name is Gideon. It's not Gideon.
Not Gideon.
Okay, because
he's changing it to Gideon. Now he gave his life to the Lord. That's his new YouTube page.
Okay, that is awesome.
Yeah, powerful story though.
Yes. Well, Pastor Vaughn, you know, because I know you and I kind of know kind of close to the beginning of way before Space City Church.
Right.
But can you tell Kim and I met Vaughn. Actually, Kim, why don't you tell how we actually met Pastor Vaughn?
Through Pastor David.
Through Pastor David
Udo.
Yeah.
Pastor David Udo. When we were beginning Rejoice TV network, we went to a gentleman named Pastor David.
Yes.
And he kind of took us under his wing as a mentor.
Right.
And he knew that we were green as grass.
Yeah.
And he said, you know what? I'm gonna
help these young ladies.
Yeah, he was really excited about you guys.
And he introduced us to a lot of people who worked with him.
Yes.
Not only Vaughn, but also
Trevor Lee
and
Charles Bean.
Yes. So all of these guys worked with Pastor David on his channel, on his network.
And when Kim says they worked with Pastor David, Vaughn started out when I knew Vaughn to start out, he was one of the most prolific Christian hip hop artists in Texas.
Wow. Yeah.
And what was so amazing about the Christian hip hop artists back then, you know, I still don't know why it hasn't taken off like I wanted to see it take off, because you all were some of the most talented people. But these guys, they wrote their own material. They produced it. They got out and edited and filmed it, and the production was second to none.
And it holds up.
Yes.
It holds up. Today,
that's
if you go and look at those videos, the videos are still fantastic. The music is still great.
Wow.
And Vaughn, I remember you started telling us one day about kind of how you metamorphosized into Christian hip hop, because it didn't start there.
That's right.
Tell me a little bit about that.
Man, well, you know that it goes back further than that. I think just with the life growth, everything. I grew up in church, but for me, I consider myself a Sunday morning, Wednesday night Christian. So Sunday I'm there, Wednesday night at the youth group, but the rest of the week at school as an athlete, I would consider myself more a football player, more life. So I wasn't really representing Christ like I should have been. Get to high school and meet my wife in high school, singing in the choir. So I sang in the choir, played multiple sports, and graduated from South Houston, ended up getting a full paid track scholarship to Rice. So I'm running track at Rice, becoming All-American. On my way to the Olympics, I'm the trajectory's there, and I end up injuring my knee. So when I injured my knee, that really slowed down everything that I was trying to do. I had to put things in perspective, and my love for sports, I had to push it into something else, and it went to the music. Months after that, shortly after injuring my knee, I found out my father was almost was going to lose his life. He only had months to live, and had a life-ending illness. And so graduate from Rice, thank God I get my degree, but instead of jumping into the workforce, I started just pursuing the music wholeheartedly. And at that time, guys like Paul Wall, Mike Jones, all of them, they were getting these $1 million contracts, Lil Flips hosting 106 in Park. So it's hard to focus on anything when you see these things going on. But with that life, it just came a lot of horrible decision making, smoking, drinking, pills, all kind of drugs. And coming home from a concert in November of 2006, stopped, tased multiple times by Pearland police. Almost lost my life. I was laying on the ground, not breathing, and call that night shock therapy. And that was the wake up call I needed, where God was like, man, either your daughter at that time that was 2 months old and your wife, either they're going to be visiting you in jail or they're going to be visiting your tombstone. So, what's it going to be? And after struggling for a few months with that, man, I went to Lakewood in April of 2007. And I said yes to God on that day. And I knew that my life would never be the same. And not knowing when I met my wife that her entire side of her family were in ministry, had churches, 3-4 pastors. Her grandfather was a traveling evangelist with a group called the McDuff Brothers, Southern Gospel Group on TBN. But I didn't know that, but God knew, and He aligned that. And so when I got saved in the first week of April, by the third week in April, I was having my first Christian event. I went to her uncle and I was like, hey man, I'd like to bring in some poets, some rappers. We called it Third Thursday. And the first one, about 50 people came out, but about 4 or 5 people gave their life to Jesus. So for me, it was the first moment where I realized, man, God didn't just give me this gift of music or of communication or whatever it is to try to blow up. That was the thing. Everybody wanted to blow up.
Everybody, I remember.
Trying to blow up somebody that year. But God showed that there was a different path. So for me, that's when the mind shift started to happen. And God started to open doors where every month it was like 50 people, then 100 people, then 200 people, then over 300 people, right? The first 3 years we were all over the place, doing church under the bridge, going into the prisons, youth groups, camps, missions trips. We went to Brazil. We went to England. And God just was opening a lot of doors. And after about 3 years of doing that wholeheartedly, the door opened for me to become a youth pastor. So that kind of shifted, what I was doing. I never slowed down on the music, but God began to teach me, and the Holy Spirit began to teach me how to write sermons, prepare sermons. I kind of knew how to do Photoshop, so I started using that PowerPoint. And so it was like for 3 years, God had me pushing the hip hop on its own. Then for 3 years, it was youth ministry, right? That was the years that you and I met, to where I was transitioning from just rapping to like, how do I implement the ministry side of things, right? And then took a couple of years off from that to work at Engine Radio, KSBJ. I was doing the marketing at the radio station. And in the midst of that, Hurricane Harvey hit and the city was underwater. Everybody was complaining that Joel Osteen wasn't opening the church doors, right? And for me and my wife, that was a moment that, wow, when the city was at its lowest, the one thing they wanted to open was the church doors. So we kind of used that as a catalyst and just as a motivation to stir up some people. Had people over to the house. About 60 people showed up. Cast vision about launching the church. About 58 of them said yes. 2 of them didn't hear from God. I don't know where they're at right now. But hey, we took those 58 and we built. And in September of 2018, we launched Fellowship Houston at the time at Dobie High School. First service, 430 people
Kim's daughter,
came to the first service.
Tony came.
Really out of the phenomenal launch, and that's because we went through an organization called the ARC, that coaches you, helps you with finances, things like that.
Wow,
So,
that's awesome.
So it's been just unique to be able to take all of what God showed us from the times when we were making television shows, doing events, creating music. And now I always tell people, man, everything that God is calling you to be, He's already put inside of you. You know what I mean? An orange seed is always going to become an orange tree, a banana seed. So whatever you're developing and whatever God's calling you to be, He already placed it in you. So just work within your gifting and through your talents, and that's how you can fulfill your purpose.
Yeah, and you know what? The thing is, Pastor Vaughn, let me say this. We watched you all struggle.
Oh yeah.
In the Christian rap.
Yes.
I mean, and kind of
explain. Used to call it holy hip hop.
Holy hip hop.
I
wanted to make sure that everybody knew what I was talking about.
For
sure. For holy hip hop. And you even did a show on the Rejoice Network called King's Camp.
Yes.
And that was the show, and the artists from around the country that you all would showcase were so talented. Right. And like Kim said, the production value was second to none, and y'all were doing this stuff yourself. You weren't calling in crews from Hollywood.
Right. No doubt.
And Kim wanted to tell this little story about how you helped us one time when we had to make a voiceover. And I'm gonna let her take it from there.
Oh, we had to make a voiceover because at that time we were all, learning with each other.
Right.
Vaughn and Charles at the time, we opened our studio to them and say, "Hey guys, come on in." And
over off MLK.
Yes. Right. We come on in, and we're gonna go in, and we're gonna just,
make it happen.
Come on in. So I said, Vaughn, I don't know how to do these voiceovers. I'm getting feedback.
Echo.
Vaughn said, okay, so what you're going to do is you're going to go and you get a big blanket, a heavy blanket,
and go in the closet.
And you record under that blanket.
In a closet.
It worked.
Yes.
It worked very well. Yeah. No echo, but it was also, borrowing each other's cameras.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The camera, we had the brother and sisterhood of the traveling camera.
Yes.
Yeah. If you needed a camera, whoever had a camera,
pick it up.
That's
go
right.
Pick that camera up,
right.
And then
that's how you make things happen, man.
That's right.
And I think when you're limited on resources, you have to learn how to figure things out on your own.
That's right.
I remember.
Super creative.
Yeah, I remember Molly Music came and did an interview there.
Yes.
And he's got a real powerful song with Lecrae. Called "Tell the World."
Yes.
So we were always in touch and always in tune. For me, I hesitate to say not successful or not reach a certain level. So I think some of that I put on God, and then I always feel like it's all relative.
That's right.
To how you view your life or where God's taking you. And I feel like there's some churches that seat 40,000 and have that many members, and there's some churches that seat 400 or 40.
That's
right.
And
I believe every person, every leader, just kind of you have to be faithful to the measure that God gave you. You know what I mean? And I see that's something that you guys have done well. And I believe it's something that we've done well on our side as well. You know what I mean? And just my thing is that at one point with the music, around 2012, I was on Lecrae's project, Church Close One, the Welcome to H-Town song. Quentin Demps, I was playing for the Texans. He signed me to his record label. And at any point, if I wanted to kind of push the trajectory of hip hop to that next realm, it was then, but I also had this opportunity to plant the church.
That's right.
And when I looked at the lay of the land, kind of like you said with Christian hip hop, there is limitations there. And I said, I can either try to be a stage chaser and push that, or I could start this church and create a platform and a ministry where I'm making music not to go out, but to bring people in.
Right.
And that's what Space City Church has become is, any artist that comes through the city, they know that that there's a place in Space City.
Right.
I've got a guy named Jay Nice that lives in Austin, Texas, and Jay Nice, a kingdom builder. He's like, hey man, I'm in town. It's like, hey, we'll come by the church and we'll definitely get you on stage. And we're a resource. We're an opportunity, and we speak a certain language that is conducive to bringing people from an urban background, hip hop background that may not feel comfortable in other churches.
Exactly.
And we're true to the season that we're in, and we're true to the culture that we're creating at our ministry.
Right. Sure. And that's one thing that my daughter loved when she went to your church.
She's away at college, but when she comes back, she comes to your church.
When we went that one time, and after that, not long after that, like within 2 weeks, she left for college.
Wow.
Yes.
So she was like, when I come back, I want to go to Pastor Vaughn's church.
That's right.
But when she went in there, she instantly felt comfortable.
Yes.
They were dressing like she was dressing. They,
the age,
they wore her hair like she wore her hair. She did not feel uncomfortable.
Right.
And that was one of the things that she really liked.
That's awesome.
That she could go in and she could feel like she just fit in.
That's great.
Pastor Vaughn, I'm going to circle back around because this is just a question that I have, but I want to ask you some of the questions that I have written down to ask you, but I'm going to circle back around to that holy hip hop thing, because I always ask myself this, and I never really got an answer, and I never really knew how to answer this question. But to me, the music was so good. It paralleled any of the sound of popular music, but the message was different. And to me, even the people who listen to the secular music out there loved it. Why hasn't it caught on like it needs to?
Well, I'll say in this current time, it has caught on a lot more. I think you have guys like Lecrae that are continuing to push the envelope, Bizzle. You know, there's a lot of newer guys that are coming.
That's
Miles
what I was gonna say.
Minnick.
What about the younger guys coming along?
There's a whole generation of movement that's coming up, and I think it's being more accepted. This is the thing with Christian hip hop, right? You have the church who's used to traditional gospel,
right?
So Christian hip hop is kind of like the step kid, the redheaded stepchild.
Is it still?
It is ultimately, because the leaders of the church and the monarch or the people that really run it are still running it. You know, gospel is still in charge. There's still an older generation that's carrying the torch. So though it's more accepted, it's still not the main. You understand what I mean? So you have that kind of rejection there, bittersweet there. And then on the secular side, we're also the redheaded stepchild to them, because we do have the beats and we have the lyrics and the, it's there, but it's not. It doesn't feed the flesh.
That's right.
Like that side's accepted. So here's Christian hip hop sitting in this bubble, and a lot of guys, I feel like when the lane could have been pushed forward, they felt like they needed to. When they got to a certain level, instead of continuing to hold the torch of Christian hip hop, they blended in.
Right.
They felt like they needed to merge.
We talked about that before we started.
And I think for me, it might have been bad back in the time of segregation, because you had to drink. The whites drank here, and the black. But if you black and it's hot and this line's shorter, I'd rather drink in this line. I didn't have to wait for the white line, because I can get a drink right here. So I feel like sometimes we try to mix and put things together, when sometimes the best thing is just be who you are, stay who you are, and allow God to elevate you in the lane that you're running in.
That's right.
And CHH at the time when we were bubbling would be firm about it. There's a guy named D1 right now that he's going back and forth online with Rick Ross. And he's a Christian guy. He's a inspirational guy, and he's challenging Rick Ross and these guys. Y'all can do better.
Right.
Like you're trying to do prison reform. You're trying to feed people turkeys, but what about changing your lyrics and stop glorifying killing and the drugs and the sex and these things? So I think it's just a matter of continuing to.
We had an episode on that last year with Carl.
Continue to be positive, but truth be told, the world will never truly accept something that's truly kingdom, because it just doesn't blend. It doesn't feed the flesh. And, Christians just have to be satisfied with it. And I pray that more people, but let's say this, Sirius XM now has a station called Holy Culture. So you can go on Sirius XM, and now there's a station there. So the platforms are expanding, and I think it's just a matter of time. My son's 13 right now, Lil Ziggy, he's doing music.
I saw his video.
So he's going to get a greater opportunity at 13 than I probably had at 30. Right. So I think it's just a matter of time. And again, just being, having a level of contentment of what season we're in. You know what I mean?
And I remember back when you all were were doing your thing on on the level back in the mid 2000s. In the mid 2000s, there were certain outlets that were the Christian hip hop outlets, and if you weren't part of that, now with social media, you promote yourself, and you can blow up on your own.
Absolutely.
You don't have to have that anymore.
That's absolutely right. Well, now one thing too, I remember that King's Camp was the most popular video show. We actually edited and put together video shows, dealing with different genres. And King's Camp came on at night. It was like at night, at 10 o'clock, because we had a 24-hour channel. It came on at 10 o'clock and went overnight. And it was the most popular channel by far. And I remember Vaughn told me a story one time. And at the end of the King's Camp videos, there was contact information for people to contact,
give their life to
if
Christ.
they
That's
give their life to
right.
Christ, if they needed, prayer and that kind of thing.
Yes.
And I remember you told us one time, Vaughn, you were at like IHOP or something like that, and
Phone
somebody
rang.
called phone rang.
For some prayer. Hey, that's
Really?
good.
And
Yeah,
somebody
awesome.
wanted prayer, and
Yes.
that has
That's
to make
wild.
you feel good.
Absolutely.
Like, okay, it's reaching somebody.
Yes,
yes.
I'm helping someone.
Absolutely.
And it has to be a very fulfilling feeling.
It does. It does. I think anytime there's impact, it's a win. You put out a song, an album, preach a sermon, anything. You wanna have a reaction. You want to know that seed is falling on good ground somewhere.
Yes.
Yeah.
Vaughn, listen, I've noticed that you post a great deal of information about things affecting your community, especially young people who are truly searching for something greater than themselves.
Yes.
Why do you believe it's important for communities to reach out to young people or those who may feel truly disenfranchised from God and the church?
Yeah.
I teach middle school students and come into contact with a lot of them after middle school. So they're high school students, and church and God and Christ and belief is not something that they even really want to discuss at school. But when you talk to them alone, miss, I go to church.
Right,
I'm in my youth group.
Absolutely.
But they won't discuss it among their peers. And you are the dad of 4 preteen and teenagers.
Yes. Yeah.
And
that
and
sounds
they
scary when
yes.
you say it like that.
Right.
Yes.
And
they are extremely active in your church.
Yes.
And they're probably very active in bringing people who are their peers at school into the flock.
Yes.
Just by witnessing, just by people observing them.
Right.
Why is it that young people seem like they're afraid to reach out with the word and to each other?
Yeah, to kind of follow up on the beginning of your question as well, a couple stats that I learned in ministry that have still haunt me to this day. So the first one is, I believe, definitely fact check me, but I believe 80% of people who come to know the Lord, they do it before the age of 18.
Wow.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Some type of scary number like that. So that means we have a window. You know what I mean? I like Eric Thomas said, you got to make the most of an opportunity of a lifetime within the lifetime of the opportunity.
Right.
So the lifetime of that opportunity is that 80% of these young people that we come across, unless we get to them by 18, they may never meet the Lord. The other statistic is kids that do go to church between the age of 18 and 30, 80% of them stop going to church between the ages of 18 and 30. They leave the church. There's a mass exodus. So that means we have a strong responsibility before they reach that age of 18. Why is it hard for them to be bold about their faith? I think it's hard for adults to be bold about their faith. So imagine, I don't remember a time that was more peer pressure than high school.
That's right. That's right.
High school, junior high, I mean, debilitating type of peer pressure to where, wow, look at them.
We're looking at them right there.
Yeah, man.
And they are at that crucial age.
Yes, they are.
They're at that crucial age. But just in looking at them, and tell me who they are from.
You got from on the left, and it's Phoenix. That's my oldest. And she's a choir girl. She loves to sing, writes amazing records. She's got some songs on iTunes. She put out her first project called Love Languages.
I remember seeing that.
Valentine's Day Without You as well. So she's got some songs out. And she's a singer. Kingston's the football guy.
Okay.
And he's very he doesn't a lot of wisdom. He's not too outgoing.
He's getting some height on him.
But he's getting a little tall, and he's a football kid. Ziggy's a lot more outgoing. He's got the music gift on him. And him getting up there in front of those teenagers, man, I really taught him about Romans 10:9 and confessing and believing and how you lead people to the Lord. And him and the older two, they're excited, but the younger two, they're on fire. Like they're fearless. They get on stage, they help lead people their age to the Lord. So it's been a beautiful thing to see Ziggy get on stage and at the end of his song offer people opportunity for salvation. And then Ariana, she's a singer as well, cheerleader.
She's a cheerleader.
Yes,
I've seen her in the
indeed. So
cheering.
they've all but they're all gifted. They all have an anointing on their life.
That's right.
And we just do our best to guide them, teach them how to be leaders. And they're great kids, and I praise God that we've been blessed to to raise 4 beautiful kids like that, inside and out.
And the thing about it is, not only are you can say they're church kids, but look, they're enjoying their high school life.
Right.
Yes.
They are involved in things that other kids are involved in.
Yes, absolutely.
But they also know their walk.
Absolutely, absolutely. We try to do our best to, we didn't want our kids to feel like they had to miss out on too much. There's a way to be involved without being involved. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And we still set very,
That's right.
definite parameters, because we have to protect our kids. We had a beagle one time, and we learned a lot about beagles, the dog. And one thing that they told us, you have to keep the beagle protected from itself, because its nose will make it just do whatever. It's not going to follow. So because of that, you have to put some parameters in place. So for us with our kids, the same way, kids are going to be kids. So at the end of the day, if it's 10 o'clock, give me them phones.
That's right.
Yes.
That's right.
Give me them phones. And it took a while for us to say, hey, you can be on social media and things like that. So sometimes you have to love people enough to say no.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's right. And that's the whole family. They were a little bit younger then.
Yes.
They were a little bit younger then. But Pastor Vaughn, here's the thing. You have been able to make sure that for whatever is out there in the secular, you have given your kids options.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That are within the kingdom.
Yes. I think it's really to make them not be ashamed of the gospel, not be ashamed of God. This story is a powerful story, and I put it on social media, and I didn't realize until after the photo shoot, because the lady that took the pictures, Nancy Kloskin, let me give a shout out. She did some beautiful work.
Yes.
She picked this location. When I went back, I remember there was a time before I started doing youth ministry, in between the Christian hip hop and the youth pastor phase. I was looking for work. I was trying to find a job, and Rice University graduate, but it was just I was still having a struggle because of some mistakes I made and things like that. So Pastor John Richardson had
Pastor John Richardson.
He worked for Coverall, which is basically a custodian business that he owned. And I would go work with him.
Right.
And that place, the one in the back, was a nightclub.
Was
and
one
on
of his
Monday morning,
clients.
I would have to go in there and clean toilets.
Oh.
Yeah.
After a weekend of a nightclub.
Yeah.
So you can imagine
I can imagine.
College graduate. I got my degree from Rice. But here I am, but I have a wife and I have 2 kids, so I have to make a decision.
That's right.
But God showed me, look, you were willing to clean toilets, but look where you are now.
That's right.
Look what your family's done. And just to see how far we've come. And that picture is just a great remembrance of how far God can take you when you fully submit your life to Him.
And tell us about the lady on
my wife,
right,
Miss Kyla. Like I said, sophomore year at Southeastern High School.
Yes.
We went choir, and man, I looked across the room. I said, "The Lord is my shepherd. He knows what I want." And we just started becoming friends after that. And so now we've been married 17 years.
That's awesome.
4 beautiful kids, and she's been on my side, holding it down and helping us. I couldn't do any of the things we do. People are like, how do you get so much done? Of course, Matthew 6:33, seek ye first the kingdom and His righteousness, and all these things shall be added. But also having a wife that's there to help be that helpmate that you need. And she's been all that and more, man. So definitely a blessing. And it brings some, it's not how I would have drawn the play up, you know what I mean? But it's helped with the diversity of our ministry. And, just, when I look back at it, man, God set it up for us to be a ministry and businesses that can reach a diverse amount of people.
That's
you know
right.
What I mean?
That's right. And let me tell you, Vaughn, when I was, all of the pictures that I wanted to send through, they didn't come through. But now the one that I made sure that I found on your Facebook page, it's the one, I thought it was South Pacific, where Vaughn had on the sailor suit.
Oh, yeah. South Houston. Wow.
Glee Club.
Yeah. Choir, in the choir. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yes. And that was the cutest picture. I said, I have got to pull this out.
I'm sorry. I wish you had it up.
Yes, because literally you all have known each other since you were kids.
Teenagers, 15 to 14. And the thing is, shout out to Miss Schott, the choir teacher, and also Rosie Curtis, who she still works at Theater Under the Stars. If you had a dance partner, really they would always try to match you with someone that was somewhat your height.
Right. Okay.
But I was 6'2" and she was 5'2".
Yes.
But Rosie knew I kind of liked her, so she would still let me dance with her and let her be my partner.
Okay, Rosie had plans.
Yeah, Rosie had plans, and she always takes credit.
Rosie was part of the divine plan.
So shout out to her for sure, man.
Well, Pastor Vaughn, let me ask you this: did you ever when you met your wife,
Yes.
and you all were married when the church was born.
Yes.
When your church was born, did you have to convince her of that this was what God wanted you to do, or did you all both kind of see that vision at the same time?
Well, we had, you know,
she was a teacher too.
Of course, she was working, and so we were doing the youth ministry. Then we did a campus pastor role, and then we pulled back and went to KSBJ. But the whole goal was, when God gives us the green light, we'll do it again.
Okay.
So for her, we had moved to Kingwood.
Okay.
The kids were in school there. We had got really settled, you know, and so to get back in the ministry for her, it wasn't as easy a thing. So, but for me, I knew you can't do this without your wife. So for me, we just weren't.
That's right.
If she wasn't on board, it just wasn't going to happen.
Right.
I think I might have put a little guilt trip out there like that. But at the same time, she said that she was at home cleaning one day at the house, and she felt like the Holy Spirit truly convicted her and truly let her know that it was time for us to plant the church. And she texted me one day, and the text just said, "I'm ready." And I already knew what that meant. I already knew what it was. And that next week, I think we had those 60 people at our house, because I was like, I'm ready to go. And we had our first interest meeting.
I love that
and
story.
but it's tough, man. I think, you know, the pastor, I get all the high fives. Great word, pastor. You really preached this weekend. And my wife, she's not getting all those high fives. She's not getting all the accolades, but yet she's dealing with the same amount of stress. She's dealing with the same challenges. And even having to still put up with me, 4 kids, the business of church, because it is kingdom business. You know, there is bills, and there is stress, and there is people dealing with things, and this phone, you know, any sickness, somebody died, somebody need a bill paid. So it's constant. You know, this is constant what we have to deal with. And but yeah, it was a tough thing for her, but she gave the green light, and we moved forward, and it's been a blessing.
Yes, that's now y'all are truly partners.
Yes. Now tell me, now when did the segue happen from Fellowship Houston to Space City Church?
Yeah, so beautiful story. We started renting this building. They wanted $1 million to purchase it. It's kind of we run 300-400. It seats about 220, so I knew it was already potentially too small for us, but it was 3 acres of land, and it had potential. We finally give the green. They say, you know what, we're gonna try and raise this money. The bank wants $250,000 plus 3 months of working capital in the bank. So basically about 280. They want 280 in the bank. We don't have that, but our church comes together and we raise about 35,000. I'm trying to raise it, can't get to it, and finally we say, you know what, we're just gonna go to her uncle's church and share that building. And but I had one more meeting left with Sagemont Church. So I told Kyle, I said, look, I'm gonna go ask this dude for $200,000. Either he gonna laugh me out of his office, or he gonna give me the money. It was only 2 options. I had one meeting left. So I went to the meeting, Dr. Matt Carter, Sagemont Church, and I told him, I said, hey, well, it looks like we're moving to Pasadena, but if you guys were able to bless us with about $200,000, we could buy the building. And he paused, he looked at the ceiling, and he said, man, this could be a pretty cool God story.
That's right.
I said, this could be a pretty cool God. So what I didn't know was they had a youth building that they were trying to build, and the city wouldn't give them the permits. So he said, man, I think it's the devil that's keeping us from getting so let's give the devil a black eye. Instead of paying for one building, let's pay for 2 buildings. I'm gonna bring y'all on stage in a couple weeks, and we're gonna raise $250,000 for you. Now we're going Ephesians 3:20. I asked him for 200.
If you don't
ask, you can't have it.
That's right.
Neither of him was able to do exceedingly above. I asked for 200. He said, we're going to bring you on stage to raise 250. And on that day, they raised 360 in one day. And they blessed us with 330,000 of that. So to answer your question, so then we purchased the building, and so we've been able to just what was the question? I lost the question. I know I'm going somewhere.
How did y'all segue from Fellowship?
Okay, there we go. That's the answer. So we have this huge blessing. Sagemont gives us $330,000. Everybody's high.
Was it a loan, Pastor Vaughn?
It was a gift.
Oh my goodness! Woo.
No strings attached. Paid off a lot of our debt. But now I'm on a high. Where do I go from here? I'm a leader. What do I tell my people? How do I get them excited? Do we try to automatically build a business? So I fasted, I prayed for about 21 days, and ultimately what came out of that was we need a fresh start. It's going to be hard to beat that win. my wife and I always had a joke about this building that was down in Clear Lake. It was an old Fry's building. It looked like a spaceship.
Yeah.
And we would say,
I know
when we get bigger, we're gonna buy that building and call it Space City Church.
Yes.
That was always the running joke.
Right.
But we said, you know what? Why don't we just call it Space City Church?
That's right.
And I looked up the Instagram and it was open, and the Facebook was open, and the Twitter was open, and went to
Wow.
GoDaddy and SpaceCityChurch.com was open.
Sign.
The digital real estate
That's
was
right.
there. So
Right.
we just made the decision. And you know what? It's been one of the best decisions that we made, because we're not traditional. Fellowship Houston is a very traditional name.
That's
Space
true.
City Church, it prompts a lot of questions. Why y'all call it Space? Because even people in Houston don't recognize that we're the Houston Rockets.
Right.
And we're the Houston Astros.
Right.
And
That's
we have
right.
NASA.
Everything is
and,
Space City.
and everything
Yes.
is space. So that's so you must be at NASA. No, the whole city is Space City. And then the Astros started putting it on their jerseys. So we get that free advertising all year.
Yes.
And there's a lot of businesses in Houston: Space City Plumbing,
Yeah.
Space City Construction.
Everybody
So now
relates that.
Right.
Yes.
So every time people see Space City, I get a text message, or I get a picture of a plumbing company, and it's just been something that was a little more cutting edge towards who we are as a ministry, and we love it, man. It's been a good fit. I feel more comfortable at Space City Church than we were. So, but we're still Fellowship Houston on paper.
Okay.
DBA.
Yes.
Space City Church.
Yeah.
Okay,
I gotta ask you this, because this has got to be kind of special to you. You all were in Kingwood, and you've been in different places. What was it like for you all to come back almost to where you started?
It was nostalgic,
Yeah.
you know, purposeful.
Yeah.
And then I turned 40, and then I got depressed a little bit, because I was like,
oh wow,
okay, man, I came from St. Croix when I was 2 years old.
Wow.
Here I am turning 42, right? I turned 42, should I say? And I realized, man, I've been in the same area for 40 years.
Yeah.
And it was a little depressing. And I was like, man, God, maybe God, is it something else for me? But now I'm just kind of sitting back and recognizing, no, God brought me here for a reason.
That's
There's a reason I've been here for 40 years, 40 years of relationships, 40 years of building, even things like this. So we've got stories, we've got history, and there's probably a greater plan for us to get done that we don't even know about. And that's what I'm embracing now, that, you know what, I'm not here on accident. I've not been up here 40 years on accident.
That's right.
I've been here 40 years on purpose. Maybe I'm supposed to run for mayor or something one year.
That's right.
I don't know what it is.
Wait a minute,
But I'm just saying.
You heard it here first.
Don't tell my wife that, though. She don't hear nothing about it. But that's but it's a blessing, because I do a lot of the weddings.
Yes.
Quinceañeras.
Yes.
Unfortunately, funerals. But when people are at their highest and their lowest,
That's right.
we're a lot of times the people they call on to help them walk through that season.
Right.
Pastor Vaughn, I'm gonna go back to this, because it's something that's very dear to me, because of the age of the people that I'm around daily.
Yes.
Being the father of preteens and teenagers, they're faced with things that we would never face with. How do you keep your kids grounded in this day and time?
Yes.
What do you have to say? What do you do? Is it you just keep them prayed up? I mean, what do you do? And what could you tell somebody else who's the father of kids going through the same kinds of things?
I mean, there's no silver bullet, but I think there's a lot of value in transparency.
Yes.
You know, your kids knowing that you actually went through things just like they did. And sometimes I wish I hadn't been so transparent, let them know all my business.
Yeah.
But at the same time, But at the same time, they know, okay, dad faced some drugs and partying and all these kind of things, and being arrested and tased.
Nothing is new. That's right.
So, you know, when I can be transparent with them, then it's a little easier for them to be transparent with me and my wife. And they need to know, kids need to know that they can't come to you, right? There's a thing that's out there, the difference between relationship and religion. The kid that looks at religion, when they get in trouble, they say, oh man, I just got in trouble. My dad's going to be upset.
Right.
My dad's going to be so mad at me.
Yeah.
The kid that understands relationship, oh, I'm in some trouble, I need to call my dad.
That's right.
Yes.
That's right.
Yes.
Right.
That's right.
So I don't want to come across to where they fear the situation. They need to know that regardless of up, down, that I'm somebody that they can come
That's
to.
right.
And that's been really helpful.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this. I have a question.
Yeah.
Now, we just went through a whole, giant world-changing event with COVID.
Yes.
Right.
How did that affect your church? Did it affect your church? I know
Yeah.
everybody was on lockdown for
Right,
a while,
right.
but how did that affect your church?
Man, crazy enough, it affected our church in a good way.
Wow.
Right? In a good way. Here's why. So we had a good circle of pastors that were there. One pastor, Cecil Witten from Life Point Church, he had just remodeled his entire church, LED wall, 4K cameras.
Wow.
And he just, in his heart, he texted the group. He said, if anyone that's portable needs a place to film your services, you can come to our church and do it.
Wow.
So my house was 5 minutes away
Wow.
from his church.
Yes.
We had never had an online service at our church because we were in the high school. Unless I could do it right, I didn't want to do it.
That's right.
So no one had ever even seen us. So I told people, hey, man, instead of Fellowship Houston, now we're going to call ourselves Fellowship Worldwide. We go into this church with 4K cameras, 3-4 angles, LED wall. And the first time people really see us online is during COVID.
Yes.
And we're going in there and we're filming and I'm editing and you
don't do anything half. You don't have
step.
You don't have step when it comes.
Yeah, I didn't take a break during COVID, and our overhead was down. So, but our giving was up.
Right.
That's right.
Right.
That's what our pastor said the same thing.
So now there's actually some money in the bank, and we're able to function. And then people were calling for help. We could help, right? So that was good. When we stopped doing that, we said, you know what, it's getting a little mundane being in the church. Why don't we went to then we go to studios, Lucky Run Studio, Sugar Hill Studio, and we would film our services at the studio. The worship team would be in the booth. I'd preach in front of the mixing board, and we'd say Fellowship at Lucky Run. So we were able to just continue to reinvent ourselves during COVID, and that was beautiful. And then by the time 6 months later, so that was March, COVID happened. By 6 months later is when I drove through the neighborhood and I found that building. So we were homeless for about 6 months, but we started on our 2-year anniversary. On the day we signed a 6-month lease in that building that we ended up purchasing. So it was the momentum.
And it's a perfect, it's got great visibility.
Yes, it's right around the corner from Hobby Airport, 2 minutes from the house I grew up in.
Yes.
And so it's a great side of town. It's a great area
for
who
we're
reaching.
And it's a growing side of town.
Going on. So man, COVID was a win. As hard as it was. Yeah. And I never got it.
Yeah.
Praise God. My wife, there was never any scares.
Us too.
God kept us. So it was amazing.
Exactly. Now, I'm trying to think, is that around the time that I called you, Vaughn? Because it was
our pastor's anniversary.
No, it was the I think it was like the
Black Methodist.
You connected that.
Yeah.
Really? With Sister
right. And then
I can't think of her name.
Oh God, Pastor Ed at Trinity.
Yes.
And y'all did a
it's like the Methodist Church. We got it done.
My pastor said, you know what? We need this. We need a video done.
Yes.
We need it done right.
I know a guy.
I know a guy. Kim said, I don't know if he still does it, but let me ask him first. If not, he can tell us about somebody.
That's right. And it turned out beautiful. And they, it was all the flash drives. It was. I think y'all put it on flash drive. Y'all
had to do like a million flash drives.
But the cool thing was there's a video online. Mandy Del Campo, one of my artists, and I was looking for like an older historical looking church. So when I got there and I said, hey, do you mind if I shoot the video? So we filmed that for you guys.
That's awesome.
And we got to shoot the music video the same week. Yeah, we did.
It was like,
that's awesome. And that's good for their church because those stained glass windows are historic. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So,
Pastor Vaughn, you, of course, are the pastor of Space City Church in the Hobby area, and your services and outreach activities welcome people of all ages, regardless of how mature they are in their walk with Christ. Have you found that your outreach and some of your activities and events have been a beacon for bringing people into church and into the word who weren't necessarily looking to find Christ, but they just like the music?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Tell us about what that's like.
You know what? It's crazy. And I got to give a shout out to a guy who has a lot of popularity on the Christian hip hop side. But he's truly an evangelist. His name is Brian Trejo.
Yeah.
And he's got Kingdom Music Ministries.
Yeah.
And we brought him in probably at least once a year. He's preached for me. We've done events. Most recently, the Space City Fest, which we had over 500 people come out to. Brian, that's him on the left.
Yes.
And Bizzle Isaiah Robin, ASAP
Yes,
Rich, and we had
there's
multiple
Bizzle,
artists,
yeah.
and great turnout. But even this Sunday, that was this past weekend, and there was at least 10 people at church Sunday because they went to this event.
Yes.
And a lot of them, of course, they're just looking at the hip hop. But at the end of the day, when you have the word in your music,
that's right.
You can't run
you
from
can't
the
help
word.
It. You can't.
The word at some point. The word, the Holy Spirit is going to capture you, is going to catch you. Yes. And so we've definitely, some of our greatest church members and moments in ministry have come from people who visited the church because of the events that we've done.
And I'm looking at some of the artists here, and you can attest to this, Vaughn. A lot of the artists, Bizzle, and a lot of the artists, they did not grow. They came into Christian hip hop from secular somewhere, from the secular side.
Especially Bizzle.
Talk about that a little bit, and how people can make that transition regardless of where you are.
Right. Yeah, Bizzle. He had a life-changing opportunity, but he's a guy that lyrically and skill-wise, I put him up there with any artist.
Yes.
J. Cole, the top of the best, but he's made a decision to say yes to God. And you'll see it because you got guys like Steph Curry that play his music, invite him to his basketball game. So he still runs in circles.
Right.
But God's no respecter of person, and God's really just looking for somebody to say yes.
That's absolutely right.
The sad thing is a lot of times people wait till they're at the low end of their career, or they don't see the value in how God can use them in their winning season.
Right.
And I wish that would happen more. But at the same time, God's ready, and he's not surprised when you show up. Right?
Yes.
You didn't find him. He ain't lost.
That's right. That's right.
He found you. Yeah, he found you in the midst of your sin. And whenever you're ready to step into the fullness of your purpose and who God called you to be, then you'll really see what you're made of, and what you were called to do.
Now, Pastor Vaughn, I gotta ask you this, and we are coming to we only have a few minutes left, but I remember when this came out, and it was so profound. Tell us about the shockumentary.
The shockumentary.
The shockumentary. We showed that on.
Yes. I wish it was edited a little better. We kind of just got it there. It was 90 minutes. I think it could have been 60, right?
But it was good.
If you watching it, I watched it the other night for the first time.
Life story.
It's a life story, and it was a blessing to see many people from my childhood, coaches, choir teachers, even college teammates, get in there and speak. And so, because one thing for me to say it, when you hear other people talking about, man, he didn't fit in it right, so we didn't expect him. He's the last guy I thought was going to be preaching. It's beautiful, man, and I think it's honest, and it gives people. I don't always get into a point where I'm sharing when I was laying on the ground not breathing, and I really felt like I was on the way to hell. I don't share that as much, but the first 20 minutes of the documentary goes into that and lets people understand that there is a greater realm from here, and if you don't have your life right, you will spend eternity somewhere.
That's right.
Right?
That's right.
Not be where you want it to be.
And I don't think at that time I truly believe I was on my way to hell in that season. I was chasing the world. I was chasing everything. I was chasing all the wrong things. And God got a hold of my life, and I thank him for it. I thank him for that whooping. I thank him for that shock therapy.
Yes.
And I still love that album. So you can check out the shock therapy album, documentary.
Can people watch the shockumentary?
You can. If you go to Vaughaligan.org, I think I do have a link on there that you can watch it. And the book, I sold some. I haven't put it out on Amazon. I still have some tweaks to it. But I definitely want to start getting the book out there because a lot of times I'm not in front of people that need the book. I'm in front of a lot of times with people that know somebody that need the book. If that makes sense.
Yes.
They have a nephew, or they got a son, and they always say, "Boy, I wish he'd have been here today." And I want to say, well, look, just bless them with the book or send them to the website. So,
that's right.
Yeah, but I'm excited about that. My next project is called Dreams, and Dreams is about the acronym Daring Yourself, Research, Execution, Ambition, Motivation, Sacrifice. And
I love it.
I've been preaching that for over 10 years and speaking all. So I want to do the same thing: a documentary, a book, and a soundtrack to help. I call it motivation overload, man. I want to just create something that's going to push people to pursue whatever God's putting in their heart.
That's amazing.
Pastor Vaughn, if you could give us just and I know it's hard, but if you could give us your 3-statement playbook.
Yes.
As to how you've structured your life to come from where you were to where you are. If someone knows someone who needs to hear that.
Come on.
What would you
Yeah.
what would you say if you had to give, just
3 things.
condense it down?
I think the first thing is a wholehearted and a full submission, a fully submitted decision to not just stick your pinky toe in, not just a halfway, but to Mark 12:30, love the Lord thy God with all your heart, all your soul, all your mind, all your strength.
Yes.
I think there's a win in that, and not being double-minded, and
Absolutely.
just knowing that, hey, this is the road I'm going down, regardless of who I see winning, regardless of if that person buys a new car, gets a new job, gets to travel, finds no, you're going to stay focused. So being focused on that is one. The second thing is that I feel a lot of people overlook. We have a lot of damaged relationships.
Yes.
I was blessed that for whatever reason, I found myself in a season of apologizing,
right,
and going to people that I was at odds with.
That's humbling
and
yourself.
Humbling
That's
yourself,
right.
apologizing,
That's
even
right.
when it's not necessarily your fault.
It's not hard. It's hard for people.
The weight of carrying those burdens.
That's right.
Imagine trying to walk up a mountain with a heavy backpack.
That's
on.
right.
That's really what you're doing when you still have a lot of offense in your life.
That's right.
A great book to read is The Bait of Satan, which talks about the spirit of offense. So I would wholeheartedly give my life to the Lord.
Yes.
I would read The Bait of Satan, understand about healing in my relationships.
Yes.
And then the third part of everything, I believe, is just a backup 2:2 and Ephesians 3:20, writing down your vision.
Yes.
Write down what God is calling you to do, what you feel you need to do in its entirety, and then begin to execute. Don't just talk about it, be about it, because there's a lot of finna Christians, finna get a job, finna go back to school, finna get married. Don't finna finish
for the next 10 years. That's right. That's
don't
right.
be a finna Christian. But if you're fully submitted to God, if you're not walking in offense, because that's too much of a burden, and if you're writing down your vision and making it plain, I think that is a beautiful way to walk in freedom and purpose.
Pastor Vaughn, the last thing I want to ask you is, there are people I know that are going to want to connect with you.
Yes.
This is a shot here of just y'all in action.
Yes.
And that's real time.
Yes, indeed.
And young people who look like they may have walked in, and that's okay.
Yes.
That's okay. If someone, the most profound thing that I heard someone say one time is that if I had known of a church, and this is about your church.
Wow.
If I had known of a church like this when I was in my lowest point, I would still be a Christian right now.
My God. Yeah.
Isn't that something?
That's awesome.
And
that's
I thought
a great compliment as well.
I mean, I would still be a Christian right now. And I'm like, it's not too late.
Right.
It's not too late, but you hate to lose people like that. If
Absolutely.
someone wants to connect with you and they want to become a part, or just come out and see what Space City Church is all about, what are the ways they can connect with you?
Come on with it. I mean, on Facebook, of course, they can watch us online every Sunday at 10:30 a.m. But nothing's better than being in person. I can't give you a hug online.
Yeah.
We can't, give you a high five, fist bump, encourage you like we can in person. So I would recommend, there's a church for everybody out there, but you got to come test us out. So come see it and just see if your spirit is in alignment with what we're doing. And I think there's a lot of people that walk in our church and they say, I've been looking for a church like this.
Yes.
Right. And
like my child.
Is a great, that's a great compliment. And I look at that picture here and I see a teenager here.
That's right.
I see a young person here.
That's right. And someone on their knees right here, a young person.
You know what I mean?
That's right.
Which is beautiful. But, our 3 rules at Space City Church is smile, smile, and smile. That's what our team knows. So we love on people. We're trying to help love people back to life. You don't know what anyone's going through.
Yes.
So love God, love people, love the city. That's our mission. And it's a great place if it's what you're looking for. I think churches are like TV stations. Some people like Discovery Channel. Some people like Nickelodeon. Some people like Lifetime.
That's right.
There's nothing wrong with any one of them.
That's right.
But find the church that's your vibe. Right. And I think we're a vibe for a lot of people that don't recognize it yet. And we'd love to see you come to Space City and come test us out.
Absolutely. And Pastor Vaughn, if you ever have events that are going on and you please shoot us a flyer.
Absolutely.
Connect with us, and we
Mhm.
will bring you in remote so you can tell us about it.
Yeah.
And we told Pastor Richardson the same thing. We try to make sure we push his stuff out there,
Right.
because the things that you all are doing, it makes Kim and I, we feel like the mother hens.
Yes.
But it makes Kim and I so happy and so proud to
Yes.
see the way you all have really tried to stay in your community
Yes.
Mhm.
and build up your community,
Right.
and not, it's easy to go to where it's easy.
Right.
Right.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
Where the median income is 150,000.
That's right.
Right.
That's right.
Yeah,
That's
Yeah,
right.
we don't have that luxury.
Yeah.
But a wise pastor, an older guy in Dallas, I went to preach out there, and he said, "Vaughn, you got to grow where you're planted."
That's
Mhm.
right.
And
Right.
and he said, too many people move around and try to go here and there.
Mhm.
He said, grow where you're planted, and that's
Mhm.
why I realized that's what God's doing with our
Yes.
ministry. So
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Well, Pastor Vauhaligan, Walwyn,
yes,
Vaughn One,
Vaughn,
Yes,
Vaughn.
yes.
thank you. Yes.
pleasure.
King's Camp.
King's
Girl.
King's Camp in your
That's
area.
right.
Find those. Are they on YouTube?
They are. You
They
can
are
find
on
them.
yes,
They're out
yes,
there.
yes. But thank you so much for coming in.
Yes.
I said it took us a minute to be able to
It was,
connect.
it was football season.
Yeah, it was. That's right. He's got
Oh.
son. Yeah, he's got sons to play football.
That's right.
But thank you so much for
pleasure.
being able, because I know Wednesday night is a big night for pastors and
Yeah,
churches,
for sure.
for putting us on your calendar, putting things to the side so you could come in,
Yes, my
because I
pleasure.
wanted the people that I know to know you.
Amen.
Yeah.
And
Amen.
that's important. You may come back anytime.
Yes,
Please
indeed.
do.
Yes.
I'd love to.
Anything you got going on, please let us know. We're going to push it out there to
Amen.
as many people as we can.
Mhm.
But thank you so much
My
again.
pleasure.
Mhm.
And Kim, as we say every week,
Mhm.
my Facebook family, we can do
You
it.
can do it.
All right. See you later.
Amen.
Bye-bye.
Awesome.